Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam, and in today's video I want to tell a little bit of a story about how the outsourcing of our validation to external circumstances and people makes it so that we can never really be ourselves and feel completely loved at the same time. They become opposing forces that cannot be reconciled. And now, the title of the video is Don't Be Yourself and Then Complain. And, with a title like that, you might be lured into thinking that I am here by inviting you to be your authentic self and stick to it and don't let other people tell you and all this kind of business. But if you follow the channel long enough, you would know that I would never be lured into such a vulgar and simplistic explanation of things because the topic is way too juicy for that. So I want to unpack it much more than that and give you a more in-depth understanding of what it is, the kind of being ourselves that we are looking for, and why when we follow the wrong way to get there, or when we follow a fake way of getting there, then we land in a place where we try to be ourselves, but then there's a price to pay. Now, I'm going to jump the gun and go straight into the price to pay and why it is there. The reason that when we enact what it is that we think we should be, and then we either feel like, oh, that makes us feel kind of lonely, or we feel a pushback from the outside that we can't tolerate, or we feel like now we're totally independent, but we're missing out on coziness or whatever, is because in outsourcing our sense of validation to others or other circumstances, we have created an unbreachable split, an irreconcilable split between freedom and love. And this comes from childhood, of course. We needed to tailor ourselves to the liking of our parents and our caregivers and society in order to receive physical nourishment, but more importantly, this is the part that plagues us later on, validation and psychological approval and emotional sustenance. So we are in a sense entrained to become something other than what we are to obtain emotional substance. When we come to know this, or even if we don't, the ego, being the clever little rascal that it is, comes up with a ruse. It comes up with a plan. Right, kind of like a Wile E. Coyote. He buys a rocket and says, "Well, I'm going to really be myself now, and damn it, I'm going to feel good about it too." But it really never pans out that way. It can't, because all the ideas of the ego about who being yourself really is are caricatures of the individuation process. They are enacting the Marlboro Man, or being the executive woman, or whatever whatever archetype you think will give you what you need. You're enacting it, and you think that by acting in certain ways, you'll get what you want. I once joked with a friend of mine when I had started to do a lot of mindfulness that I had come to the disturbing conclusion that I was some sort of mixture between Maverick and Marty McFly, right? I had just copied all the mannerisms of a couple of characters and in a slapstick kind of way just glued them together, and I started to act in ways that I thought would make me look cool and help me interact with people in a way that would get me what I wanted, or maybe feel good. So the ego's idea of authenticity is a fake, right? The ego's idea of sincerity and being who you really are is a kind of facsimile of authenticity. I see that a lot in modern day Europe, right? Not that I know any other Europe, but what I see around me in industrialized countries especially is a high degree of individualism, but a very low degree of individuation. In other words, the ego's idea that says, if I think, say, and do what I want, that makes me an independent individual that has broken away from the matrix, and so and so. But you never really come to ask what the idea of doing what you want and saying what you think came from. Is what you think, did your ideas come from you? And are the actions that they trigger also authentically yours? Or are they just things that you grabbed from the media and your parents and your significant others and whatever, and now you're just enacting this thing? The root of individuation is, of course, far, far more difficult. And what it essentially entails is looking relentlessly and rather ruthlessly at all the parts that you don't like about yourself. And you don't need to come to like them, but you need to come to terms with the fact that they're there, fully acknowledged, so that you can fully know yourself as you are. And in knowing yourself as you are, you come to validate yourself as a full experience with all its constituents. That is the reintegration or the reacquisition of your validation. The validation that you have had unknowingly and unwittingly outsourced to the other when we are children, when we are infants. Now, when we are infants, that is the only move to make. Our nervous system systems are completely primed for that, and it is the right thing to do. Not that there's much doing there, but it's the way to go. But during adulthood, that validation needs to be reconquered, and it cannot be outsourced anymore. And in the reconquering of our validation, we find that the actions that we take are no longer validation seeking, and therefore the irreconcilable split or choice between freedom and love, or being yourself and feeling fully loved or unconditional love, becomes reconciled. It cannot be reconciled on the outside. Our egoic attempts to do so will take the form that I just described, and they will also be, according to your turn of mind, personality, and circumstance, take typically an overtly yang or an overtly yin type of flavor. If it takes the yin flavor, you'll be someone who fawns and people pleases, and you will miss out on what it feels like to be yourself. If it takes the yang flavor, you'll be a narcissist and a bully, and you will miss out on what vulnerability and real connection feel like. Does that sound familiar? And we sometimes ping neurotically between the two, and even if we try to somehow hit a perfect middle, it's a mixture that doesn't deliver on what it promises, and it's impossible to keep that balance all the time, which is why we're constantly tactically, what am I going to say to this person, or how do I land well in this situation? What is the job that is going to give me X? Okay, it gave me X now for 6 months, but I now miss on Y. So it's an impossible pinging from one foot to the other, trying to keep those our full sense of self and our and unconditional love both running and being felt as we want to feel them. I want to offer an example to illustrate what I'm expounding on here, which is when I was learning to paint and mix color. You see some of these little animal paintings here. There's some oil stuff that I make, and when you learn to paint, you come to realize that it sounds pretty obvious, right? But the more white you add to your paint mixtures, the less intense your colors become. They get watered down they get whitish, right? The intensity is lost. The intensity of what's called the chroma is lost. And that's why some of the most expensive pigments that you'll find on the market in a tube will be pigments that are very light, but at the same time very intense. And there you cannot mix those. If I wanted very intense light purple, I cannot mix blue and red, because the more white I add, the intensity just gets lost. No matter how perfect the purple I have, I add white and the intensity is gone. So you could think of the white pigment as the outsourcing of your validation to the outside. When you outsource your validation to the outside, it doesn't matter how perfect the mix of freedom and love you may have stricken, it's not going to feel like the right thing, because its intensity is gone by the very fact that it is not coming from you, but is coming kind of to you, or you are deriving it and trying to suck it from the environment like a kind of energetic vampire. And the equivalent of the special super expensive pigment that you can buy to actually have the right mix is the process of individuation, in which you do the hard work of reconquering the sense of validation and no longer outsourcing it. And this is a very difficult process, as a matter of fact. So this is the gist of the video. When I say don't be yourself and then complain, it's kind of highlighting this trap that, you know, we go all gung-ho, or we fawn, and then we go, why is this not working, right? And the reason is that we're trying to fake our way to individuation, both because whatever we think that our real self is completely misinformed by egoic notions that have nothing to do with us, and because of the fact that even if we enact the right things and obtain the right results, they somehow feel empty because they are empty of us. The heart is not there, and that's the part that gives it the real value, of course, right? That's where the magic sits. So I wanted to share that with you guys today because it came to mind, essentially, and I'm very curious what you make of it. So do share it in the comment section. And as usual, if you think that these topics are valuable, if they could benefit others, then your participation on the channel, your liking, your sharing, and subscribing makes you a participant in this discussion, puts the message out there. It's also very motivating to me. So thanks for listening so far. I'll be back with more videos pretty soon. Cheerio and bye-bye.